This is the same server, the same tool, the same compiled binary running the whole time. The only thing I changed between these two responses is one HTTP header. On the left, the structured result comes back wrapped in an object. On the right, it comes back as a bare number with two fields that did not exist before. If you build MCP servers in C#, this is the change that is going to catch you out. And right now, almost nothing online is talking about it. So in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what changed in version 2 of the MCP C# SDK, why the wire format moved, and the 4 errors you will hit if you call it from anything other than the official client. Everything here was run against a live 2.2 server. Nothing is copied out of release notes. I'm Mani, and I build production AAI agents in .NET. Let's get into it. Here's why this is worth your time right now. Version 2.0 shipped on the 28th of July with real breaking changes. 2.1 followed a week later. 2.2 a week after that. 3 releases in 17 days. Meanwhile, every tutorial, every blog post, and every video I can find still targets version 1. Ask a search engine what the latest version is, and a lot of them will still tell you 1.4. which is 2 major versions behind. So if you learn this from the internet's current answer, you are learning the old API. 5 parts. First, the one sentence that explains every other change in this release. Second, stateless servers, which are now the default, and the one thing that breaks. Third, structured content, and the opt-in that the release notes never mention. Fourth, we go to the terminal, and I walk into 4 errors on purpose, because those errors are the best teacher here. And fifth, a migration checklist you can actually work through. Here is the whole release in one sentence. MCP moved from a session handshake to per request metadata. That's it. In version 1, a client called initialize once. The server created a session, and that session remembered who you were and what you could do. In version 2, the newest protocol revision throws that away. Every single request carries its own protocol version, its own client info, and its own capabilities. Once you have that sentence, every other change in this release stops being a surprise and starts being an obvious consequence. And you don't have to take my word for it, because it's right there in the type system. The SDK exposes a class called MCP Protocol Versions, and it sorts every protocol revision into exactly 2 buckets. The first bucket is handshake versions, negotiate once, keep a session. The second bucket is per request metadata versions, carry everything, every time. The July 2026 revision sits in that second bucket. That's the fork in the road, and everything we look at from here is downstream of it. Let's make that concrete. This is the entire server. Add MCP server, add the HTTP transport, pull the tools in from the assembly, map it, run it. The line that matters is stateless equals true. In version 1, the HTTP server held a session for every connected client. In version 2, stateless is the default. You did not ask for it, and you may not have noticed it, but your server no longer remembers anybody between requests. Keep an eye on that property though, because it is a convenience wrapper over a richer setting, and the difference between them will bite you. And here's what that looks like from outside. I'm gonna call tools/list. With no initialize call, no session, no handshake of any kind. On version 1, that was a protocol error. You had to initialize first or you got nothing. Watch what happens now. The server just answers. 3 tools, full schemas, first request. That is stateless mode doing exactly what it says. But stateless is not free, and this is the most common thing to break on upgrade. A stateless server cannot start a conversation. It can only answer, because any reply it tried to push might land on a different application process behind your load balancer. So the SDK disables 3 capabilities outright. Sampling, where the server asks the client's model for a completion, elicitation, where it asks the user a question, and roots, the get and delete endpoints go away too. Tools, resources, and prompts are completely unaffected. And the documentation is explicit about what you use instead, which we will get to in a moment. And here is that richer setting. Session mode has 3 values, not 2. Stateless, the default, gives nobody a session. Stateful gives everybody a session. But look at what it does to new clients. A request on the July 2026 revision is refused outright, with error -32022, unsupported protocol version, specifically to force that client to downgrade to the old handshake. So if you reach for stateless equals false because you want sampling back, you have just started rejecting every modern client that talks to you. The third value is the one most people actually want, stateful for initialized clients. Old clients get a real session with a session ID. New clients get served per request, both on the same endpoint, so you can migrate gradually instead of waiting for every client in your estate to move on the same day. Which raises the obvious question. If a stateless server cannot make requests, how does sampling work at all in the new world? The answer is a mechanism called multi-round-trip requests, and the SDK names it directly as the replacement. Instead of pushing a request down a session, the handler suspends and returns an input request as part of its own response. The client sees it, resolves it, running the sampling call or putting the question to the user, and sends the answer back on the next round trip. Same capability, no session, and nothing that has to land on the same server process twice. It is the same move as everything else in this release. Take something the session used to hold and put it in the message instead. Now, structured content. The release notes will tell you that non-object results now come back as raw values instead of being wrapped. That is true, but it is only half the story, and the half they leave out will waste your afternoon. By default, a 2.2 server emits no structured content at all. None. You get a text block and nothing else. You have to opt in per tool with use structured content equals true. And notice this is per tool, not per server. Miss it on one tool, and that tool just quietly stops returning structured output. No error, no warning. It simply does nothing, which is a very annoying thing to debug. With the opt-in switched on, here's the difference. Against the older protocol revision, on the left, your integer comes back wrapped, structured content, object, result, 34. And the output schema is an object schema with a required property called result. Against the July revision, on the right, the same tool returns a bare 34, plus a result type field and a namespaced meta block carrying the server info. The reason is a proposal called SEP 2106, which widened output schema to accept any JSON schema document rather than only an object. So a bare integer is finally allowed to travel as a bare integer. And this is the comparison that makes it click. I have a second tool that returns a record, an object with a city, a temperature, and a condition. Watch what happens to it. On the old protocol, an object. On the new protocol, the identical object, byte for byte. Nothing moved. Because an object was already an object, and SCP-2106 has nothing to unwrap. So the rule is simple. If your tool returns a class or a record, this change does not affect your wire format at all. If it returns an int, a string, a bool, or an enum, it does. Let's watch both of those live, side by side, against the running server. Scalar tool, old protocol, wrapped in an object. Scalar tool, new protocol, bare 34. Now the object tool, old protocol. And the object tool, new protocol. Identical. That's the whole of the structured content change in 4 commands. Now, before you panic about coordinating an upgrade across every client you own. You don't have to. This is a negotiated difference, not a hard break. Internally, the SDK asks a method called supports natural output schemas, whether the version it just negotiated can handle the new shape, and if it can't, another method rewrites the schema back into the old wire format for that client. So an old client talking to a new server keeps working. It just keeps getting the old shape. That is genuinely the most useful thing I can tell you. If you are planning an upgrade, the two sides do not have to move on the same day. Right, part 4, and this is my favorite bit. Suppose you are not using the official C# client. You're calling MCP from curl, or from a language with no SDK, or you're debugging what's actually on the wire. You ask for the new protocol version, and the server starts refusing you. I hit 4 errors, in this exact order, and I want to walk into every one of them on camera. Because each error is the protocol telling you about something a session used to remember on your behalf. So, I set the protocol version header and call the tool. First error, I have to also put the protocol version inside _meta in the body. Fine, I add it. Second error, missing required MCP method header. Add that. Third error, missing required MCP name header. Add that too. And the fourth, I have to declare my client capabilities as a JSON object in _meta as well. 4 rejections. 4 pieces of state that a session used to hold for me, and that I now have to send on every single request. And here's the trap inside the trap. Those keys are namespaced. It is not protocol version. It is io.ModelContextProtocol/protocol version. If you write the plain key, you do not get an error message telling you it's wrong. It is silently ignored, and you get back the same complaint about the field being missing while you stare at a request that visibly contains it. That one is very easy to lose 10 minutes to. So, namespace keys always. Put all 4 in, and there it is. Bear34, result type complete, and the server info in namespaced meta. That is a fully formed request under the new protocol, and it's a lot of ceremony for one integer. So after all that ceremony, here's the same call from C#. Build a transport, create a client, call the tool. There are no headers here, there is no _meta. There is no protocol version anywhere in this code. The SDK negotiates the newest revision. Both ends support and fills in every single field we just spent 5 minutes fighting with by hand. Which is the real lesson of this whole section. If you use the official SDK, this migration is close to a non-event. If you call MCP from anything else, you now own all of that plumbing yourself. Let's run it. It connects, it reports the server as demo server 2.0, and it tells us it negotiated the July 2026 revision on its own. Tools list comes back. The scalar tool prints a bear34. The object tool prints its object, unchanged. Same results as the curl walkthrough, none of the work. There is one question this whole video has been setting up without answering. If there is no initialize handshake anymore, how does a client find out what a server can actually do? The answer is a new call, server/discover. And look at what comes back. Supported versions. The list of protocol revisions this server will accept. Capabilities. Instructions. And then the 2 interesting ones, a time to live and a cache scope. Because 2 proposals did the damage here. SEP2567 removed the session ID header, and SEP2575 removed the initialize handshake entirely. Discovery is what took their place. And this is the part I think is genuinely elegant. The SDK's own documentation says cache scope is analogous to HTTP cache control, public and private. Public means the response holds nothing user-specific, So any client, any shared gateway, any caching proxy may store it and serve it to anybody. Private means it is user-specific, and a shared cache must never hand it to a different user. And it is not just on discovery. Tools list, resources list, prompts list, and resource read all carry it. So the thing that used to live in a session on your server now lives in a cache, possibly on someone else's infrastructure, with an explicit time to live and an explicit sharing rule. That is a much more web-shaped design, and it is why the whole release looks the way it does. Let's talk about what you actually have to change. I took the public type list out of the shipped XML documentation for both versions and diffed them, rather than trusting the release notes. 282 public types in 1.4, 287 in 2.2. So the surface barely grew, but 25 types were removed and about 30 were added. And the removals are the part that will actually break your build. And here's the good news. All 25 removed types are the same thing, the tasks API. It hasn't been deleted. It has been extracted into a separate package called ModelContextProtocol.Extensions.Tasks. So if you use long-running tasks, your migration is to add that package reference and carry on. And if you never touch the tasks API, which is most people, the removals do not affect you at all. Your build very probably just works. And one myth worth killing, because it will send you on a pointless refactor. You will find upgrade notes implying that version 2 renamed the client types, that MCP client factory became MCP client, and SSE client transport became HTTP client transport. Check the ship documentation, and that story falls apart. MCP client and HTTP client transport already exist in 1.4. Client-side type names barely move between these versions. Do not go hunting for a rename that isn't there. The break in this release is on the wire, not in the API names. 4 practical things that cost me time building this, so they don't cost you any. 1. .NET Run obeys launch settings.json and ignores the AspNetCore URL's environment variable, so your server will not be on the port you think it is. Pass --URLs explicitly. 2. If you rebuild while the server is running, you get MSB 3027 file locked. Stop it first. 3. If you use a style transport, send your logs to standard error, because console logging on standard output will corrupt the json-rpc stream and the failure looks like nothing at all. And 4. The one I already mentioned, use structured content is per tool, and forgetting it fails silently. So, your checklist. If you use the tasks API, add the extensions package. If you have a mix of old and new clients, set session mode to stateful for initialized clients, and specifically do not reach for stateless equals false, because that refuses the new ones. If you depend on sampling or elicitation, move them to multi-round trip requests. If you want structured results, add the opt-in on each tool. If those tools return non-object values, expect a bare value on the new protocol and check whatever consumes it. And if you call MCP from outside the SDK, you own the 2 headers and the namespaced meta block. Work down that list and you are done. If you remember one thing from these 20 minutes, make it this. MCP moved from a session handshake to per request metadata. Stateless servers, the required MCP method and MCP name headers, the namespaced meta keys, the natural output shapes. Every one of those is a consequence of that one decision. Once you see it that way, you can predict what the next revision is going to do, instead of reading the release notes and hoping. The full server, the client, and a findings file with every command and every response from this video are in the repo linked in the description. If it saved you an afternoon, a like genuinely helps this reach other .NET developers. And subscribe if you want more of this. Code first, no hype. I'm Mani. See you in the next one.